first glance, the spreadsheet is a glossary. 576 entries on Serpent, power, Tantra, Kundalini, body, sound, and consciousness. But read together, it becomes more than a list of definitions. It is a symbolic map. It asks how one reality appears as many, how power rests in the human body, how sound becomes form, and how yoga reverses that movement back toward unity. This video synthesizes the spreadsheet as a conceptual guide, not as a medical or anatomical instruction manual. The central question in the notes is simple and vast. What is the one reality that appears as many? The answer is framed through Brahman, whose own nature is being, consciousness, and bliss, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. This blissful consciousness is described as the irreducible nature of reality, both the whole and the source of every part. Manifestation begins when that pure consciousness appears to limit itself, making finite experience possible. A spreadsheet repeatedly pairs Shiva and Shakti. Shiva is changeless, static, pure consciousness, the power holder. Shakti is active power, the kinetic aspect through which consciousness moves, knows, speaks, and forms worlds. The notes caution that these are not finally two separate seeds. They are one bindu with a dual aspect. Creation is the apparent unfolding of their polarity, and yoga is the resolution of that polarity back into unity. Kundalini is the spreadsheet's central image. The static form of creative energy, the source of all energies, imagined as a coiled and sleeping serpent at the lowest bodily center. While she rests, ordinary consciousness is awake to the world of forms. When she awakens in yoga, the direction changes. The same power that projected the world is raised through the centers, leading consciousness away from mere outwardness and toward super-worldly experience. One of the most important sentences in the notes says that there is nothing in the universe that is not in the human body. The body is therefore treated as a microcosm. It has a dense food body, an etheric vital body, and a subtle body composed of buddhi, ahamkara, manas, senses, and subtle elements. Prana holds gross and subtle bodies together through 5 life functions: appropriation, rejection, assimilation, distribution, and utterance. The chakras in the spreadsheet are not described as merely material or physiological. They are centers of consciousness, subtle lotuses, and points where forces and experiences are concentrated. The lowest center is associated with earth and the resting serpent power. Higher centers are linked with feeling, fire, heart, throat, command, and the 1,000-pedaled cerebral lotus. The nadis form the subtle channels, with the sushumna as the conduit of ascent. A major theme is sacred sound. Shakti is defined through sabda and artha. Sound and the objects, or meanings that sound denotes. The universe is said to be composed of letters, because all ideas and all forms arise within conscious expression. Mantra is not merely prayer. It is power in sound form. In each lotus there is a seed mantra, a bija. Sound moves from causal stillness to inner vision, to thought, and finally to spoken speech. The notes describe creation as an unfolding. When the seed of cosmic will ripens, Shakti thrills as nada and assumes the form of bindu. From that impulse, subject and object arise. Maya measures and limits the formless, allowing the split between I and this. Srsti is the movement into manifestation. Laya is dissolution, the return of things into the source from which they came. Pralaya is the larger phase of potential rest. The spreadsheet does not treat the world as a simple illusion. Maya is the power by which the formless becomes form, the immeasurable becomes measurable, and consciousness experiences objects as other than itself. Jiva is embodied consciousness under this veil. Prakriti is the material and mental source of manifested effects. Purusha is the experiencer. The tattvas organize the descent into senses, subtle qualities, gross elements, mind, and matter. Yoga is defined as the suppression of mental modification and the return movement to the source. In this framework, Tantric yoga purifies the elements of the body, absorbs the tattvas in the centers, and raises the serpent power through the inner axis. Completed yoga is the union of Shakti with Shiva in the highest center. The end is beyond heaven worlds. It is union with that which is the source of all worlds. A glossary records siddhis, powers, and extraordinary abilities associated with contemplation on the centers. But the larger synthesis is careful. Powers are not the goal. Competence is determined through discipline and guidance, and the work is not mechanical. The spreadsheet is best read as a symbolic theology of power, consciousness, body, and speech. It should not be taken as a casual practice manual or as a substitute for qualified spiritual instruction. The core message is profound. The body is not a prison, it is a ritual cosmos. Sound is not empty noise, it is power, meaning, and form. Mind and matter are not separate kingdoms, they are effects of one conscious activity. Kundalini, the serpent power, is the universe folded into the human body. Liberation is the recognition that the apparent many, the body, the world, the word, and the self, return to one consciousness.